All right, fourth graders, we are on Module 6, Lesson 2 today, and we're looking at using tenths that are greater than 1 whole. So flip over to your notes once your table of contents is finished. And our objective again today is still looking at how we can explain the relationship between a fraction and a decimal and recognizing that they're showing the same thing. And today you also are going to need a ruler. And on your ruler, we're really looking at the centimeter side. So mine is marked with mm, which are millimeters, because in between my centimeters, I know I have 10 millimeters to equal a centimeter. And so we're going to need that ruler today. The first thing we're going to do is draw a line the length of 2 centimeters. So we're going to practice measuring and looking at our decimals. And so I'm going to go to my end of my ruler. I'm going to come in this space, and I'm going to measure it to the 2 centimeter line. And so I'm actually going to start at the 2 and go backwards. Boop. 2 centimeters is actually awfully small. Okay, so I did that. Now I've got a list of some steps we're going to do. It says now extend the line 6/10 centimeter. Now here I'm going to use a different color, but what you can do is you can put a little vertical line kind of there where that 2 centimeters was. I'm going to use a different color, but I'm going to put my ruler right back where I had it. So my line matches right back up to my 2 centimeters. And my directions told me to go 6/10 of a centimeter. So I'm going to carefully look at all of these tick marks in between 2 and 3. And I'm going to count 6 because those represent a tenth. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my big one. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is my next 3 because that's 10 tenths, and that makes the next whole number. So I need to go 6/10 was my direction. So I know 5 is my next larger line. So the next tenth is that next small line. So I just made a little bit of a dot where that 6/10 is. And then I'm going to connect it back over to my line. And you can see that 6/10 is much smaller than that 2 centimeters. So I'm going to check that box. It says label the 2 centimeters. So I'm going to come down here and say this space is 2 centimeters. Next, it says label the 6/10 centimeter. So this space was 6/10 centimeters. Okay. Now I need to record a number sentence to create a mixed number. So I have a whole number and I have a fraction, and I want to know the whole distance of this line I've created. So we're going to write a number sentence, and I'm going to say 2 plus 6/10, just like I wrote, equals, I forgot something, didn't I, fourth grade? I forgot my labels. 2 centimeters to 6/10 centimeters equals, and I know when I add a whole number and a fraction and get myself a mixed number, I smush them together. 2 and 6/10 centimeter is the whole length of this line we drew together. So I'm going to check that off. We did that. Now we're going to do the same thing, only using decimal form. I don't need to draw my picture again. I just want to write my numbers as a decimal instead of a fraction. So I have a whole number 2, and since it's a whole number, I'm going to say I don't have any decimals, plus, centimeters, almost forgot again, 6/10. So when I write that as a decimal, I don't have any whole. Decimal comes next, and then as my tenths place, I put my 6 in. Centimeters equals 2 and 6/10 centimeters. Okay, nice job. We're going to do the same thing, but over here this time, it says draw a line segment to match each measurement, then write a number sentence using decimal and fraction form. So I already know that I need to make 3 and 7/10 centimeters. So I'm going to get out my ruler. I'm going to practice measuring. We're getting all kinds of practice here today. I know my whole number needs to get to 3, so I'm going to kind of put my finger on 3. Then I need 7/10 more. So now I'm going to count 7 little lines. I know I'm not going to get all the way to 4 because that would be 10/10 more. My halfway point is 5, 6, 7, 2 small little lines next over. So I'm going to go make my little mark and draw my line to the end. And there is my 3 7/10 centimeters. And so now I'm going to write my number sentence in decimal and fraction. So we'll start, since I'm in decimal form, 3 centimeters plus 7/10 centimeters equals 3 7/10 centimeters. Now if I were to write that as a fraction, I'm going to still say 3 centimeters, that's a whole, plus, but instead of 7/10 as a decimal, I'm going to write 7/10 as a fraction equals, and when I add that together and it becomes a mixed number, it looks like this. Excellent job. Let's do one more. This time I have 2 6/10 centimeters. So I'm going to look at my 2, that's my whole number, and then I'm going 6 more tenths. My next long line is 5/10, so I'll make a little mark at this next small line, which is 6/10. Draw my line, and now we'll write our number sentence. 2 centimeters plus 6/10 centimeters equals, just like it told us, 2 6/10 centimeters. And now as fraction form, we'll write 2 centimeters plus, remember I read this 6/10, when I say it out loud, that gives me a clue on my fraction, equals 2 6/10 centimeters. Nice job so far. Let's flip to the next page. This time we're going to represent these tenths in an area model. So when I look at a 1 whole, and I want to know how many tenths are in 1 whole, I know that that would be 10 tenths. I could write it as a fraction, or I could write it in unit form, and it would look like this, 10 tenths. Okay. So we're going to use this area model as we continue on, and we're going to show how we shade in 2 6/10. So if I have a whole number 2, I know I'm going to shade in 2 whole area models. 2 whole area models. Now I know I need 6 more tenths, and so I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I just like to outline it like this so I know what I would be coloring. And this represents 2 6/10. And again, we're practicing with that number sentence. So we're going to say 2 plus 6/10. Notice I don't have labels this time because it didn't ask me to use labels. Here's my fraction form. Now I want to use my decimal form. So still I have 2 plus, now I'm using 6/10. So I have 0 decimal, and that makes my 6/10 equals 2 6/10. This decimal point tells me that I use the word and when I read it. I don't say point, I say 2 6/10. All right, we're going to peek at one more part, friends. We're going to look at using our numbers to make shading our area model and then writing it in decimal form and as a mixed number. So I have 3 1s and 2 tenths. So the first thing I'm going to do is shade. I have 3 1s. Those are my whole numbers. And I have 2 tenths. So I'm going to quickly math scribble 1 and 2. So now I need to write that as a decimal form. So I have 3 1s. That gets to go in my whole number. And there's that word and to tell me I need a decimal. 2 tenths, and I know after the decimal comes tenths, so here's my decimal form, 3 2 tenths. As a fraction, I would still do 3, and tells me here comes my fraction part, 2 tenths. Okay. Now, 4th graders, if I were to ask you, how much more do I need to get to 4, my next whole? I have 3 2 tenths. How many more do I need? I can use my area model to help me. I would need 8 tenths, or you could write it as 8 tenths, like this, as a decimal. That's how much more I need to get to my next whole. This last one we're looking at is, an improper fraction. I need 33 tenths. Now, I could sit here and count 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 33. But here's what I know, fourth graders. There are 10 tenths here. I'm going to shade that in. I know I need at least 10. Here are 10 tenths. That makes 20. Oh, here are 10 tenths. That makes 30. I know I need to get there. How many more do I need? If you said 3 tenths, you're right, because that gives me to 33. So I'm going to shade in 3 more tenths. So I've shaded in my 33 tenths. And I want to write that now as a mixed number, or as a decimal form, and then as a mixed number, because we don't like improper fractions. So I'm going to look here, and I see I have 1, 2, 3 wholes. So I'm going to say 3 wholes, and there were some left over, and that was 3 tenths were left over. Now again, we don't like improper fractions, so I want to write this as a mixed number. I have 3 wholes, and there were 3 tenths left over. This time, if I needed to get all the way to the next hole, I would need, oh, you guessed it, 7 tenths more. Excellent job today, friends, recognizing that relationship between fractions and decimals.